Demonstrates invoice approval for the Lawson Invoice system. Before we begin, let's start by understanding the approval workflow within your company. After an invoice is submitted, it flows through an approval hierarchy. There are 5 levels in the current hierarchy. It is important to note that the current approval policy does not permit levels to be skipped. For example, an approval value of $3,000 would require the approvals of the department manager, director, and administrative assistant. If you receive email notification to approve an invoice, it is expected that you complete the approval process in the system promptly within 24 hours. Not all invoices will require approval. What types of invoices require approval? Invoices that are not related to or attached to a purchase order. The portal is the launching pad for Lawson applications. The In Basket is located in the Home tab, appearing vertically on the left side of the portal. This is the location where all Lawson transactions requiring approval are added and stored. When an invoice enters an In Basket, an email is automatically sent to notify the appropriate individual that there is approval work to be done. In addition, an asterisk after the role name indicates a new invoice has arrived in your In Basket. Click on Department Manager to see all work listed in the In Basket. A work unit represents a single Lawson transaction, such as a requisition or an invoice that requires additional attention from one or more approvers. Work unit numbers are assigned sequentially for tracking purposes. Description gives you some of the details of the work unit, and the work category displays the department number to which a work unit pertains. Next, we will click on an invoice. Focus your attention on the left side of the screen. On the In Basket tab, there are 2 menus, Actions and Please Review. From the Actions menu, clicking on Approve executes an electronically recorded approval of the invoice on behalf of the approver. It removes the work unit from the approver's In Basket and forwards it for additional approval if necessary, or otherwise changes the status of the invoice to approved. Clicking on Reject executes an electronically recorded denial of the invoice on behalf of the approver. It removes the invoice from the approver's In Basket and effectively changes the status of the invoice as to prevent any further processing. Click Reject when you are certain you do not want this invoice to be paid. Clicking Return sends the invoice back to Accounts Payable and removes the invoice from the approver's In Basket. If an invoice was routed to you incorrectly, attach a message and click Return. From the Please Review menu, the display link shows you the details of the invoice to be approved. The Folders link will take you to the original invoice. The Messages link will take you to see all the messages attached to this invoice and where comments or instructions are added by the approver. The History link shows directors, administrative assistants, and other approvers the approvals that correspond to this invoice. Now let's look at an example. Approvers should train their eyes on the following. In the upper section, Company, Vendor, Invoice, Invoice Amount, Invoice Date, and Due Date. The Drill Around feature allows you to see more information about the invoice. To access the Drill Around information, click on the Drill Around button, or alternatively, you can right-click in the Amount field and select Drill Around. The Drill Around window will open. Here you can view invoice attachments, details, parameters, out of balance, origin, user fields, etc. To view the electronic copy of the invoice, click on the invoice URL attachment and then click the name. You can see the title and URL for the attachment. Next, click the Open link. Another window will open to display the PDF version of the invoice. Locate and review the vendor name, dates of service, invoice amount, line items, and costs shown on the invoice image. If needed, you can save the invoice locally by clicking on File, Save As, and save it to your computer. When you are finished reviewing the invoice, exit the window. Then close the Drill Around window to go back to the invoice work unit. Next, we will explain how to add accounting distributions to this invoice. Before you approve an invoice, you will have to add accounting distributions. Notice the highlighted difference field. It represents the amount of the invoice that has yet to be distributed. When you add distribution lines, the differences amount is reduced. Before leaving this page, make sure that the invoice is fully distributed and the difference amount is shown to be $0. To add a distribution line, select Add from the Function Code drop-down menu. You can add the information for the field simply by typing it in, or you can click the blue and green arrows to select the information from a list. For company, we will select Central Washington Hospital. Next, we will need to select a department. As there are a number of departments from which to choose, we will perform a search. Click Search, then click the Filter Radio button. Change the first field to Name. Now we will enter the first 3 letters of our search. Click the Filter button, then select Ambulance Outside Services. Again, if you know your department number, you can simply type it directly into the field. Next, select an account. Note that the account list will only show relevant accounts associated with the department we just selected. Next, enter the amount. Then, if necessary, enter a sub-account, activity, and account category. Finally, click Change to add the accounting distribution or distributions to the invoice. You will see a confirmation that the change was completed. If you need to edit a distribution line, click Change in the Function Code drop-down menu. Make any revisions and click Change again. If there is another department that must add their own accounting distributions, attach a message saying so, then utilize the return action. The returned invoice is sent back to the AP department. They will see the attached message and reroute the invoice to the next department to add their own accounting distributions as shown previously. Before taking any action, we will attach a message to this invoice. First, click on Messages. Next, click the Add Message link. Enter your name, then enter your message. Be sure to include any necessary details in your message, such as why the invoice was approved, rejected, or returned. If returned, in addition to why, include what changes should be made or questions that need an answer before it can be approved. When you are finished, click Add to attach your message to the invoice. Next, click the appropriate action. We will click Approve. After selecting an action, a confirmation pop-up box will display. Click OK to complete the action or cancel to go back. After selecting OK, the invoice no longer appears in your in-basket. This concludes the video presentation. You are welcome to restart this presentation at any time.